I would prefer that you don't call me ma'am because I also still relate to a young person. And by the way, I also already have a local name.
Okay.
I was given, so now I am Tsepiso.
Tsepiso, like this.
Yeah, exactly. But I was told that it means promise.
Promise.
Promise of the Lord. So yeah, you can call me like this if you want.
Okay, Tsepiso. Okay.
Yes. Speaking about opportunities for young people, we understand that unemployment in the country is huge. That every third young person who graduates cannot apply its skills and talent because there are limited opportunities. And we have felt it when we started hiring local staff at the embassy, and we received more than 1,000 applications for a post of personal assistant to the ambassador. And I have been scanning through these CVs and I saw that people are talented, you know, they have background, but unfortunately we only needed one person, so the process was tough, but it speaks volumes for the level of unemployment and that people are hungry for great opportunities. And when I was scanning through the CVs, recommendations, I realized that this can be one of the potential opportunities for us to step in, because we saw that not all of the CVs and the package that we were receiving is good enough to get the job. You know, the person is qualified, but the way they sell themselves is not the same level. So now we are trying to get to know more organizations that empower youth, for example, Put Youth On, Botswana Jobs for Graduates. We want to partner with them to offer trainings for young people on how to present yourself, on how to prepare a perfect CV, how to prepare for interview with behavioral questions, do like some mock-up, do some leadership training. You know, we want to offer, of course, to those who we can, and preferably not only in Gaborone, we want to go all around the country, in Kasane, Maun, Hanzi, everywhere we can go, Silibipikwe, to do this training so that people have capacity and skills to get the jobs. And we also want to offer internships, and we already do at our embassy. We had already 2 interns who helped us with cultural projects. We also started a public opinion research survey. They're helping us with this. We write them recommendation letter to, of course, make them stand out in the crowd. And this is something that may be interesting for your viewers. They should know that we offer internships for 1-2 months. So if you're interested, don't hesitate to follow our page. Right. I can advertise, right, a little bit. Follow our page, and you can text us about these internships.
All right. So that's very interesting. I wanted to ask this question in terms of Botswana youth in comparison to the Ukraine youth. What are some of the things that Ukraine youth are doing that maybe Botswana young people should do, to keep this unemployment?
In Ukraine, we grow up too fast sometimes, I think, because already in the age of 18, you feel like you should have achieved much more than you did. You feel we already move out of our parents' house. We try to start our business. We try to already study and work. So we understand that okay, our childhood is over. Now we have to be on our own. And people start to hustle from very, very early age. And the separation from parents and from family comes also much younger. We already graduate from universities when we're 20 years old, and then we start working. I know that, for example, here, it's a bit later happening, the same as in Western Europe, there are some people who are still 30, they live with their mamas and just finishing universities. It's also good, it's nice, but I just tell that in Ukraine it's different. We become adults very fast, we hustle, and we have huge entrepreneurial mindset. Because we understand that we should not rely only on the government, because Ukraine is a rather young independent country. We got our independence in 1991. And since then, there were financial crisis, economic crisis, revolutions. Then Russia annexed Crimea and invaded us in 2014. Then again, full-scale invasion in 2022. So we understand we can't rely only on the government. We have to rely on ourselves. That's why people try to start their own businesses, find financial support, get grants, scholarship, to put it in their business and do something on their own. Like you would see that every second person has a business in Ukraine, and most importantly, young people have these businesses. And going back to what we can also offer as trainings, we can also teach young people here how to have this mindset, how to, like, you know, if you don't have start capital, like where to find it, how to fundraise, how to make sure it's viable and it's gonna live and you will not close after 1 year. So this is something that I'm proud of, like of my fellow Ukrainians, that we are a resilient nation of hustlers, and we know that everything depends on only us.
I really loved whatever that you said, because instilling I would say the spirit of independence at a young age, it's very important, because you learn a lot of things while you're still young, and then you're on your 30s, you're just fixing things there and there. So it's very important that we as Botswana, we start to be dependent at a very young age. It's few of us who are getting independent at a younger age, but some people are just relaxed. And you mentioned the issue of training. I think that will also instill that good character in us.
I think also you have a good example of Honorable Minister Leseho Chombo, who is only 25, 26.
Yeah.
She has already, like, she has been a lawyer. She already won Miss World Africa. She's now the minister. Amazing. And you know, like, she should inspire also like young people to like follow their dreams, and I hope it already starts to work. But yeah, she should be a role model for young people here, and I also personally adore her.
Same here.
I hope one day we will call her and then
I hope so. I hope so.
All right, let's move forward to the next question. Maybe to close the part of this conversation, maybe you talk about the future of the embassy, what you want the embassy to look like. I think we're off the record, we're talking about how few people, Ukrainians are in Botswana. Yeah, maybe you can have conversation around that.
Well, we also want not only Ukrainians here, we want Botswana in Ukraine. Yes. We want you to come to Ukraine to study, to explore our country, because it's extremely beautiful. You know, Ukraine is a little bit bigger than Botswana in terms of territory, and we have different beautiful nature landscapes. We have Black Sea, we have Carpathian Mountains, we have Pink Lakes, we have National Park also with zebras, we have rivers, we have biggest desert in Europe. So, you know, like, we have a lot to share and to show. So we want also Botswana to come. That's why we're working with your Ministry of Higher Education to get those scholarships for young people here, so that they can come and study and fall in love with our country. And how we see the embassy, of course, we want most importantly to help, as the president says, the new Botswana to economically flourish. Because we have the technology, we have the expertise, and we really want to advance Botswana's economy in these fields, as I said, agriculture, digitalization, education, and military cooperation. Because we have experts in this field. Ukraine is ready to help. We just need to, like, go through the bureaucratic barriers and make it happen. And I really hope that in a couple of years everyone is going to know about Ukraine and what we did for Botswana, because we are ready to do it, of course, pro bono, just because we want to have these good diplomatic relations. And in terms of like culture, we also want you to learn more about us. I'm wearing, for example, today our Kyiv painting. This is part of UNESCO Intangible Heritage, and I want Botswana people to learn more about us. That's why we're having projects now in movie industry. We want to do a 48-hour challenge for young cinematographers. We're working with the Khabarone mayor and city council, because we want to do competition of murals and make Khabarone a more beautiful city. We're working in terms of music production, because we want our bands to cooperate, our singers to cooperate and have some camps together where they're gonna do something cool. We want to establish a Ukrainian center on the base of UB, so that we have more cultural events, research, lectures, where people can learn more. Basically, we are very busy, as you might have noticed, because we want to be everywhere at the same time, because we see, as I said, it's a fertile ground. Reception has been great. People are hungry to get to know more. So hopefully all of it will come true, and you will be also like happy recipients of these perks and benefits that Ukraine is bringing to Botswana.
Okay.
All right. Okay, we are closing that part of the conversation now. We are moving to, 3 years back, Russia attacked Ukraine. I know there's so many theories, there's so many conversations around that, but our interest today is just to get, the conversation around how has this war impacted Ukraine?
Yes, thank you for the question. I think it's very important to talk about the war because, as you correctly said, full-scale Russian invasion started on 24th February 2022, and unfortunately it's still going on. And it's not getting any better. And something that felt so far, like living here in Southern Africa, where you have a beautiful, peaceful sky, sun is shining, birds are tweeting, and then you read about the war and it feels like so far and you don't understand what's exactly happening until it hits you with the spike in prices for regular commodities, for sunflower oil, for sugar, for wheat, and you start wondering what's happening. Then you see the price for your petrol is rising and you don't understand what's happening. We're doing quite well. And then you understand that these are the consequences of the war that Russia started in Ukraine. Because unfortunately now they are occupying 20% of our territory, which is a huge amount. They annexed Crimea in 2014. But we always still say that Crimea is Ukraine, and we will always do. And the consequences are quite bad, as you might have guessed, because this is not just a conquer of territory. And it's not how many people love to write in the comments that we always read on social media. It was not a proxy war of the US against Russia. It was not a fight of Russia against NATO. Because as you have seen, Ukraine is not part of NATO, but Finland became a member of NATO, which is literally on the Russian border, and Russia did not invade Finland for some reason, right? So it's not about NATO, it's not about proxy war with America and between America and Russia. It's about erasing Ukrainians from this earth and saying that they never existed, taking our territory, taking our history, taking our culture. Because why? Why is it important for Putin? Because Kyiv and Rus started in 5th century and then developed, and the peak of it was in 9th, 10th century. And Kyiv and Rus, of course, with capital in Kyiv, current Ukraine. It gave birth to modern Russia. So of course it's uncomfortable for Putin to know that they were not the first ones and that they are actually coming from our territory. It's uncomfortable for them because they have these imperialistic ambitions. And that's why they have this genocidal nature of war. When they're coming and conquering our land, they are torturing our people, they're erasing everything that belonged to us to say that we never existed. And then of course it's really easy to manipulate people and say that Ukrainians were not a nation, they don't have their own language, they don't have this and that, because they erased us from this earth. That's why it's a fight for existence. We always say if Russia will stop fighting now, there will be no war. But if Ukraine stops fighting now, there will be no Ukraine. So you see what I mean? Because we are fighting for our existence, for our independence, for right to be on this planet. And just so that you understand also, it's not only happening on the battlefield, even though it's terrible there. And I tell you that every Ukrainian has already lost someone dear to our hearts. Every Ukrainian. We lost our family members, our friends, people with whom we were growing up. And it's a pain, and the hole in your heart that you feel like will never be covered, because they're fighting for us, for our future. And apart from these horrors that are happening on the battlefield, there are also many atrocities that they're committing with civilians who have done nothing wrong. They are sending bombs, drones, missiles every day and every night. They bomb residential buildings where people are peacefully sleeping. They are bombing children hospitals. They are bombing churches, museums. They are doing everything to destroy us, and it's happening non-stop. And I can't even also tell you about all the horrors that are happening on the occupied territory, because now we don't have access, and this eastern and southern part that they have occupied was one of the most densely populated. And there we have, of course, a lot of our minerals, natural resources. So basically, naturally, a lot of people have lived there. So what they do with people on the occupied territories, they torture, they rape women, kids, they burn people, animals alive, they kidnap our children and bring to the territory of Russia to make out of them child soldiers to go and fight Ukraine on the battlefield.
Their own country.
Exactly. And all of this that they're doing, they are making, like, they're torturing our prisoners of wars, our civilians, our journalists. And this is non-stop. And I'm pretty sure people in Botswana don't know about it, because there is so much that you can't even comprehend how a human being can do this to another human being.
It's a lot.
And they were calling us the brothers, sisters. How would you do this to your brother? How would you do this to your worst enemy? This is even hard to comprehend, especially for you in Botswana. People, like, you are so lucky, and I pray that you will never know the word war or conflict or any kind, because it's fantastic that you are such a peaceful country, that you always have peaceful transitions of power. It's very commendable what we saw in November last year. We had goosebumps, and we were super happy to be in the time of change. So for you, even, it's very, very difficult to understand what Ukrainians are going through. And in terms of, like, all this war situation, Ukrainians still have to work, still have to live, still have to love and continue, because, living in Ukraine right now because of Russia became a lottery. It feels like you're playing literally a Russian roulette, because when you go to bed, you don't know where the bomb will land tonight and whether you will wake up tomorrow. That's why Ukrainians started to go, of course, more often to church, to pray and to be closer to God, because we understand it's everything in Lord's hands. And people started to love their life more, because they understand that we only have maybe today, and we have to do our best. And that's why our world is amazed by our nation, because of our resilience, because we still manage our economy to work, because we still manage to stand strong. And as many people say, like, how come such small Ukraine defends itself and stands to beat Russia? Because we, above all, respect and need our sovereignty and freedom, and we will fight for it till the end, because it's worth fighting for.
I have a question.
Sure.
Do you think is it possible for you guys to resolve things peacefully? Like no fights, no bombs, and nothing?
Yes. Good question, Sophie. Good question. That's what the best politicians in the world are trying to figure out also. And actually, very relevant question. I don't know when our viewers are going to be watching it, but today we are recording on 17th of May, which is important because just 2 days ago, I'm pretty sure you know about it, but our president flew to Turkey to meet with President Putin for direct negotiations. So you know what happened? Putin chickened out and he didn't come. I think it speaks volumes. Ukraine always says we are ready for ceasefire. Let's do this 30 days. Let's stop. We are all in for peace. Direct negotiations, let's do it. And then at the end, Russia never agrees for ceasefire. Russia never comes to negotiations. They sent like a low caliber delegation to talk. And you know what they said at peaceful negotiations yesterday? They threatened us and they said, if you will not give up the 4 big territories that we conquered, we will conquer 2 more. is it how you do peace negotiations? So we really hope that the world leaders will see that Russia is never ready for peace, that their end goal is to take the whole Ukraine and then continue to advance in Europe. We want President Trump to also see that Ukraine is doing everything possible to stop this, but as you know, it takes two to tango.
Yes. Just
Okay.
can I ask? Yes. You are from Ukraine, right?
Yes.
And then I was thinking that the reason why you are occupying other countries, it's for you guys to go to a safer place, because Ukraine is no longer safe. Because any time of the day you can just die. So do you think it's the best idea for you guys to occupy other countries for safety?
Occupy? What do you mean by this word?
Like stay in other
Yeah, okay.
Like move to other countries.
Okay, yeah.
For safety.
Yeah, for safety.
I understood, but I just wanted to be clear that Ukraine never invaded anyone and we will never occupy territories of other countries. We have been a peaceful country like always, and we always want peace. And by the way, that's why Ukraine, like for 30 years of our independence, we have been sending our military troops to UN contingents in Africa when there were conflicts on the continent. There were always Ukrainian military who was supporting the peace efforts over the world. And of course, as you correctly say, there are plenty of Ukrainians who fled the country, especially, as you can imagine, like from this densely populated area of Donbass. We have now counted 11 million refugees. Crazy amount. 8 of them have fled from the country. Mostly it's countries of Europe because, of course, like physical proximity. But a lot also went to Canada. We have a huge diaspora in Canada, US. And these countries have been fantastic. They welcomed us and helped a lot for people to integrate as soon as possible. And the rest, 3 million, is internally displaced. Within Ukraine, they went to the western part. But yeah, it's tough because they have fled. And imagine what's happening also with demographic situation in Ukraine, because mostly men, of course, we also have brave women who are fighting on the front line. Mostly it's a male population that's dying on the front line to defend us. Women have fled the country for safety. And then who's gonna stay, to build the country? Because unfortunately, it's a huge problem because we're losing our best people, brave, patriotic, who were supposed to build our country after the war. And now we are losing those people, and it's very hard. And at our Ministry of Foreign Affairs, we're thinking how to bring these people back after the war. Because imagine, they left 3 years ago, they already learned the language, they found a job there, they found new friends, and then after the war is over, we would need to reconstruct Ukraine, and would they want to come back? It's a question, That's why it's a huge also demographic crisis, and Russia knows it very well. That's why it's also some kind of a war of attrition to make us fatigued, tired, so that like we say, okay, if we give up, or just like let's finish it and bring people back. But as you understood, Ukrainians will not give up.
Right.
It's a very painful experience. I don't want to lie. I'm trying to imagine it, and I'm like,
and
so
you
bad.
see this in the movies.
Yes.
How is the person living in Ukraine? But anyway, moving to the next question: how has the war affected infrastructure, especially hospitals, schools, and roads?
Terribly. Just to answer, terribly, like. They bomb everything they see possible and impossible. Of course, in Russia, they reported to their citizens that they managed to bomb military objects, military facilities. They would never say that we are terrorists who bombed a children's hospital, actually one of the biggest in Europe, where children are undergoing cancer treatments. They bombed it last year. Of course, they would not say it because their citizens would start asking why did you do it? So yeah, the damage is you can count it in billions of USD. It's crazy damage. And if you would see, like, just if you Google pictures of cities like Bakhmut, Mariupol, Marinka, maybe later you can Google, you can see before and after. Before it was like, small town, beautiful flowers, theater, kids going to school. Now there is not a single patch that stayed unbombed. It's just like ghost city. Everything is bombed. Like it's empty. There is no safe spot. Like if you see, as you said, it feels like a movie. It feels like AI generated because you can't imagine that this is possible. And of course, when they bomb Ukraine that's not occupied, when they bomb the rest of the country, with the help of our partners who help us with reconstruction efforts, we rebuild it quite fast to still make it possible for people to move around, especially the roads. We rebuild our facilities of critical infrastructure, because Russia was always also targeting our electricity power plants. So imagine in winter, that Ukraine can be very cold in winter, and imagine you don't have heating, you don't have electricity, you live in blocks of flats, you have to walk on 11th floor and back every day. So like they're doing it to make people fatigued. So they say like, okay, we can't do it anymore. And it's very, very tough, but as we always say, we're extremely grateful to our partners worldwide who stand with us for freedom, for the rights of humankind, and help us reconstruct as soon as possible. They help a lot with humanitarian effort. They help our people, and of course, thanks to them, Ukraine is still standing.
Yeah. Oh, that's great.
I'm left with two questions. Unless you have a question.
No, for now I don't.
Okay. You mentioned international aid. What key organizations have been there in Ukraine trying to help the country and the people, especially that people are being displaced from their homes to other countries?
First of all, these are the countries that help us. The country on itself, we have huge support from the United States of America, huge support from Germany, France, UK. They help us a lot with ammunition. Of course, there are plenty of other countries in Europe, so that for the sake of time, we just name the key donors. Of course, from organizations, like secondly, it's a lot of UN bodies who help us with refugees, with monitoring, observing, UN women, like with children. Of course, we have a lot of them. Red Cross is helping also those vulnerable communities. And people, even like worldwide as individuals, they always ask us how can we donate money, because there are different causes, like some want to donate for animals, some for children, some for like restoration of cultural heritage, some for military. People are amazing, like you see the solidarity all over the world, because we're all humans, like we feel the same pain, we feel the same happiness, and people understand that it shouldn't be like this in 21st century, and of course never, but especially in 21st century, when we're talking about sending people to live on Mars, and we're still fighting each other on our beautiful Earth. So people have been asking how they can donate. So of course, like mostly it's our partners in Europe and North America, and UN organizations, Red Cross, they help us a lot, and we are forever grateful for this.
That's great. That's great.
All right, one last question. What can people do? Like you mentioned right now that people are asking, how can we help? What do you have sort of maybe? I know we watched a video during the youth leadership training program at the Frederick Abbott. That video, yes. Maybe those are some of the things maybe people can share just to inform people what's going on in Ukraine. Is there any other things that we can do on social media or individually?
Okay, I have before I answer, I have a question to you. So when we showed at this leadership program to you this movie 20 Days in Mariupol, the movie that won Oscar for the best documentary, I want to ask you, how did you feel watching it, and what do you think about it? I
felt terrible. The experience of the war, we don't have it in Botswana. Just a small conflict in the family, it causes a lot of traumas. I I imagine now you are just sitting there. If somebody popped a balloon right now, I'd freak out. Now, knowing that it's a bomb and it's probably near you, I felt terrible about it. And I felt like sometimes I pray that, you know what, the war should end. And 3 days back, I heard about the ceasefire that was supposed to happen. Now that the negotiation didn't go well, Ukraine is the supplier. You know, now we are struggling, we are buying bread. 100 and something, rice is so expensive. Everything literally
fuel.
Fuel. Everything is just expensive. So I really feel bad for Ukrainians.
Thank you for that. I just wanted to ask you because, you know, it's a very good example how creative arts and how movies can impact our mindsets. Because when we read the news, we filter it with our brain and we're like, okay, there is a lot going on. There's a lot going on in Gaza. There is a lot going on in DRC. There are so many now, India and Pakistan. And to just like swipe next news and you don't focus on what's happening now in Ukraine. And it's, in a way, it's understandable because we also want to read about something positive. We want to focus on our lives, on our country. But that's why we want to use more of such tools as showing our movies, talking to people, doing more interviews, doing more projects, so that people can understand what we're going through and feel it and become empathetic. Because then when, for example, you watch the movie, you put it not through your brain, but through your heart. And that's how it stayed with you for a long time and made you wear the pin of Ukraine, made you invite us to share, and we are also grateful that we are here today as the embassy because we can share our story, and that's what we ask from people here in Botswana. Stay curious, learn more about what's going on in the world because we are all interconnected. Our world is globalized, so it's really important to know what's happening and stand for the truth, stand for the peace. And when you say that you pray for the peace, we always should emphasize that we pray as well, but for just and lasting peace.
Yes.
We want international law to work. We want guarantees that, for example, if the war stops tomorrow, if we negotiate, that it will not happen again. That it will not happen again in 1 year. That's why we are always asking for security guarantees and we always pray for just and lasting peace. But overall, to sum up, we're gonna be working 24/7 to make sure that people in Botswana know the real story about the war, about Ukraine, that they understand what we are fighting for. And of course, support our cause. And how you can help, just like share our posts on social media, follow our page because there we always post that Ambassador made an interview, we post some news. You can come to our events, we would be very happy to see you. You can plant even sunflowers in your garden because sunflowers are very typical for Ukraine as a support. Read the news, discuss it with your parents, with your community, bring awareness. Let's not let it die, you know, because we need to talk about it. Because as I said, we're all humans and we need to support each other. And that's how we will get the better world.
Okay, thank you for that. Because I used to follow up Ukraine a lot, the wars, but I ended up giving up because it wasn't getting better. So I was like, you know, because the situation continues to be bad.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Tepiso, for having us. We do pray that the war stops. We don't need wars at the moment. Everything is not going well for everyone. We pray that something, maybe this discussion will reach a place where now somebody will have the empathy, the sympathy, just to say, you know what, let's start to talk peace. The conversation should drive to peace. Thank you very much for coming, and follow us, follow Come Alive, follow me, Mongwemang, Gina Mongwemang on Facebook, LinkedIn, Tapam Mongwemang.
Follow me on Facebook, Sophie Samang. Don't forget to like, share on Come Alive videos, and also on YouTube, just drop a like, comment, And also don't forget to like all my socials. It's just Sophie Kereisamang on Instagram, also LinkedIn, Sophie Kereisamang. Thank you guys for watching.
Thank you very much for having me today. You can also follow Embassy of Ukraine in the Republic of Botswana on Facebook, and it was my utmost pleasure to be here with you, and I hope this conversation reaches the necessary people.